chaos. My life, chaos. Can you see that? It's chaos.
Author, motivational speaker, and activist Margarete Cassalina is certainly no stranger to chaos, like the lengthy renovation of her longtime family home. But this brave and vibrant spokesmother of two knows a harsher chaos because both of her children were born with cystic fibrosis, and her daughter Jenna succumbed to it in 2006.
I have a Jenna 65 rose garden, and those with cystic fibrosis, when they're little, have a very hard time saying cystic fibrosis. So they can say 65 roses. And when my daughter moved up to heaven, a friend of mine actually brought me 65 rose bushes so I could be with my daughter. Whew.
Some wounds never fully heal, but Margarete has managed to turn her children's battles into a rallying cry for change.
12 years. It'll be 12 years this year. 12 years this December. And I look back and I can't believe that I'm here. And I can't believe all I've done. But I can't believe all the people that I've met and the gratitude I have for what they helped me with and the blessing I have to be able to help others. What do they say? I get by with a little help from my friends. That's the only way I got by. From friends and family. I had friends that literally brought me soup because I couldn't swallow. I couldn't breathe.
While Jenna's tragic death nearly toppled Margarete, the initial prognosis for Eric, her older boy, had also been dire.
They told me it was a fatal genetic disease and that his life expectancy was 19. And I was 22. Your world stops and you're just like, okay, what do I have to do to save him? That's the kind of chaos you don't want to have. I didn't know what to make of it. The words fatal don't go well when you're expecting a whole future of your child to go to school and you be a grandparent and you live on right off to the sunset or something like that. And I stopped working and I stopped going to school and I just became a full-time stay-at-home mom, doing all I can to save my child's life in any way, in any fashion I was able to. The reason why he's alive at 26 is because I joined on with all the fundraising people that were out there raising funds and awareness for cystic fibrosis. Also to go to Capitol Hill to talk to our congressmen and representatives about what they can do to support the foundation, because unfortunately, 250,000 or less is considered an orphan disease, and there are only 30,000 in America with cystic fibrosis, 70,000 worldwide, and it means money doesn't go to support them. It means you got to do what you can to scream from the rooftops about fundraising or about information, what they can do for Congress representatives. How can they help? How do they help us raise money and awareness? And all of that together, combined with pharmaceutical companies, have enriched many, many lives with cystic fibrosis. Unfortunately, my daughter was not able to partake in that. Jenna lives in my heart, alive and well in my heart. Unfortunately, that's the only place you can find her. She was born in 1993, and she too was diagnosed with cystic fibrosis. She had it much worse than my son. Back then, in the 90s, you would have to be admitted for 3 to 4 weeks in the hospital at a time. And we lived there every year, twice a year. And my husband would have to take care of my son while I was in the hospital with my daughter for weeks on end, sleeping in a chair, sleeping in a cot, sleeping at the foot of her bed, sleeping anywhere you gotta sleep. Cystic fibrosis affects your lungs, where it can really do damage. A lot of bacteria, a lot of infections, and it suffocates your lungs. Before they had this vest machine that would shake their lungs, you'd have to do it manually, chest physical therapy, and you just bang your kids left and right, and you do this a half hour per kid, 2 to 3 times a day. So I had some good arm muscles just banging away at my kid, and to do that in public, I think people called welfare services on me because they're like, you're hurting your child. And it's like, no, I'm just trying to clear their lungs. Thank you very much. So yes, there's medications, there's nebulized treatments, there's orals, there's pills. It's a lot. My life was my children. And that's all it was. In 2006, Jenna's lungs were down to 19% lung function. She had to get evaluated for a double lung transplant. They accepted her. And then the day after Thanksgiving of that year, her lungs collapsed. And oh boy, she never made it for the transplant. And I just couldn't get past, like, how can she not be here? How can I move on? She was my book club president, my fashion consultant. She kept me in check. She kept me real. So when she moved up to heaven, I was like, I'm done. Like, I'm done. I'm just done.
But Margaret rebounded, and the world, especially those whose lives are affected by cystic fibrosis, has been infinitely enriched by her efforts.
I always journaled. Every problem I ever had, if I could put it in the pages, somehow it wouldn't like stay in my head. I ended up sharing my journal, which turned into a book, because I felt if anybody still wanted to meet my daughter, they could meet her in those pages. What really blew me away is how many people could relate, whether or not they had cystic fibrosis or not. They could relate to the relationship I had with my mother. They could relate to the relationship I have with my husband. They could relate to the relationship I have with friends, family, and loss. You lose somebody. That's a even playing field right there. Everybody knows what it's like to lose somebody. But how do you get past that? I figured people helped me get to where I could stand up and stop wearing waterproof makeup. And I want to be that person to help other people, you know?
In Milton, Jay Berkey for HudsonValleyHeroes.com.